Howdy folks, welcome back. In this video, we'll talk more about drawing dynamic action poses, and we're going to build off of this toucan technique that I've talked about in the past and show you how you can modify it to get even more dynamic poses. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So what is this toucan technique that you're talking about? You might ask. Basically, the idea is to approximate the shoulder blades and the pelvis as cylinders, and these cylinders can twist, and what's really important here is to be able to draw these cylinders in proper perspective, right? So if we have a cylinder that is facing away from us, it might look something like this, and this dotted line indicates that this form is basically dimensional, and they are connected by a simplified version of the spine. So we've talked about this in previous videos, and I'll put a link to that in the description. What I want to talk about today is this idea of expanding on this concept and making even more dynamic poses. So here's what we're going to do. That top cylinder here for the shoulders, what we're going to do is we're going to simply split that in half, and we're going to create a little bit of a angle. And it's just much like our own shoulder blades. We can lurch them forward, we can tilt them up, we can tilt them to the side. This is going to give us that extra flexibility when we're considering movement with the arms and the shoulder blades. And like before, we're going to have a simplified version of our spine, and we can then have our pelvis. Our pelvis is basically, you might see this represented as a upside down trapezoidal box. It could also be represented by a bowl. I'm just going to represent it with a cylinder, because what that allows me to do, it allows me to understand where the openings are, where the legs are going to socket in. So let's see how we can use this concept and apply it. So we'll go ahead and create our, I'll just put this in a different color here. We've got our pecs. Got a rib cage. And we'll just have a simplified pinch here for denoting the fact that there's a little bit of a bend here. And then we'll have a shoulder blade. This is going to be our upper arm, our lower arm. We'll have our other shoulder blade, upper arm, lower arm, right? So right there, that gives us a little bit more movement. It gives us a little bit more dynamic movement in this particular pose. Let's go ahead and extrapolate that to other poses. Let's say that we have our cylinder like this. Maybe like one side is up, the other side is level. And let's now turn that spine forward, and we'll add some tilt. So I'll switch colors again. There's our chest. There's that protrusion of the rib cage. Here we're going to have some stretch. We'll have our shoulder blade. And these are tapered cylinders. That means that they will eventually converge to a point if you let them. And then from here, the feet would actually be tapered cylinders as well. They would socket in. We've got the knee, we've got the hands, etc. I'm leaving those details out for this video just to focus on the mechanics of movement. So let's say that we wanted to have a character maybe reaching up over their hand, over their head like this. How can we represent that? Well, we'll have the tilt for our shoulder cylinder moving up. We'll draw our simplified spine. We'll draw our pelvis. And from there, we can hang that upper arm like so. We've got the shoulder blades. And there we go. And then the head might lurch forward. Then we can go ahead and draw the chest. And then if we want to, this is kind of looking like Spider-Man a little bit. We can draw our tapered cylinders for the feet, like so. So let's now make something a little bit more dynamic than that. So we can already see that that gives us a lot more flexibility. What if character's punching? Notice that I'm pulling this cylinder closer to the viewer. And so because of the foreshortening, you know, part of it is going to be obscured. And the head might be tucked in. We can represent the hands very simply like so. If the character's recoiling because they're getting hit, you can have the neck kind of extend backwards. This is the head. Again, really, really simplifying here. And a great place to practice this, and the subject for my next video will be to actually look at some comic book covers and attempt to analyze, using this technique, how, how to employ this in practice. We've talked also about the drumstick approach, which I think some of you found to be very helpful. That's in another video. But this is just the foundations of just creating more expressive poses and allowing us to play with the idea that the arms can also move up and down. They're not just rigid. So this is just a good way to start off when you're learning how to pose characters, and you're maybe dealing with something that's more like a still life or something along those lines, where someone's just kind of sitting there. You know, this is the basic idea, right? Like an upright pose, that's fine. But if we want to have, a little bit more flexibility, consider moving those things up. You can also move them down, right? So if a character is feeling sad, tired, what have you, you can, denote that through the sagging of the shoulders. So in this particular case, we've got the shoulders positioned in such a way that they're kind of moving down. There's the upper arm, the lower arm. There's the head. Let's have this hand come out towards us like so. So in the next video, we'll talk about actually looking for these particular expressions in a comic book cover or two, and you'll see how I go about the process of analyzing that, because that can be a great way to practice what you've learned on something that already exists. Being able to identify that, from a comic book character. Why a comic book character and why not from an actual reference? Well, because in comic books, typically speaking, most of the character poses are pretty dynamic. So it's a great way to kind of see almost exaggerated poses that lend themselves for dynamic action. If you found this video to be helpful or useful, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Do appreciate all the support. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. And let me know if this was helpful. Write down in the comments below, what's the one thing that you've learned from watching this video? I would greatly appreciate your feedback and input. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.